Good afternoon, dear friends. We can start our afternoon session with one of our important agenda item, World Archery Plan. As you know very well, World Archery was built on this very dynamic strategic planning. And why I say dynamic? Because after finishing first and essential part of the plan, we are continuously moving forward. One of the main aim related to this plan is mostly our related to mostly our member associations and their improvement. Now we will discuss some of working details plus some workshops. Again, floor is yours, Tom.
Thank you, President. So what we will do is we will give you an update of where we are in terms of the World Archery Plan. For your information is that we had started with this process before we ended up with COVID and how things were going. So it was just that COVID had an influence on what we were doing. The other thing I will come back to in the end is also, as you know, the IOC and they had an Agenda 2020, and they also have now an Agenda 2020 plus 5. And of course, as member of the Olympic movement, we have to synchronize what we are doing with what the IOC is doing as well. So we had I would say, first internally in the office, and then in the second step with the executive board, some discussions, and we wanted to make some changes of what we are doing. And in the past, our plan has been very much about archery. And you say, okay, why should it be something else than just archery? Because you are World Archery. Yes, but we live in a world that is around us, and we can't see yourself alone as archery. So it's not going to be only about the actual practice of archery, it's also how can we engage people and how can we make people enjoy our sport, not only by doing, but also by watching or following. So we had a discussion with our board in December, where we approved the new enhanced mission and vision statement. And then we had a second approach in March, where we looked at the goals to implement it, as well as some of the structures in terms of the office to implement it. So what we're asking now is to get more or less your consent to go forward and to start implementing and to put it all into details, because at the moment it's very conceptual. It's a pragmatic approach, but it's very conceptual, and we need to now put it really into the details. And this is something we will do over the next year, and then also start implementing. And some of the things will not be new to you. It's continuation of what we are already doing, but some things might give an indication of a small change of looking at things. So in terms of the vision, and it was also implemented in the presentation of Juan Carlos earlier on the center, is a world in which everyone has the opportunity to practice the important Olympic sport of archery. That was the former vision. We added engage or enjoy. And that's a new way of looking at things. Like I said, engaging public, sponsors, anyone, and enjoy by doing it, archery, or by watching it, following it, whatever. So our approach is not just focused on doing archery. The mission, the first part of the mission also remained the same. We want to still empower you as member association to make archery a leading sport in your nation all around the world. That's not new. What is new is that we want to make sure, and it's coming a little bit to what we discussed earlier also on terms of TV production and so on, but in terms of events as such, to really build and regulate an event ecosystem that is sustainable, that works at all levels. And then the last part is to really grow awareness and engagement with the sport. We should get to a situation where we don't have to explain what archery is. People know what it is. And they want to engage with the sport. Now, we've seen some of the statistics in terms of YouTube, in terms of Facebook, Twitter, and so on, and it's very clear that we're on the right track. But we want to go even further. We want to continue being among the top players in social media as an international sport organization. We did a feedback form for all of you. It was an online form that was open for several months. It wasn't our most successful questionnaire, I must say, because we only had one answer coming back. And that was saying that gender balance and diversity should be included as a goal. Absolutely. Of course, it is part of our goals in our constitution, so we should also put it in this set of goals. No discussion. So, one of the strategic goals from an organizational point of view is, okay, we had the pandemic. I think with the explanation I gave you earlier on in terms of the finances, it's very clear that we were not ready for such a pandemic in terms of the finances. So we really need to look again at how we can build up reserves. We also have a commitment to the IOC that by 2030 we should have enough reserves again. Our long-term vision is to really have a maximum 50% dependency on IOC revenue. Since I don't know what the IOC revenue is for this year, I can't calculate 50%, so it's a little bit easy to say it today. But I think it's clear that 50% of our activities should come from non-Olympic matters. At the moment, our reserves, let's face it, is our office. That's our reserves. It's a very static reserve. But by 2024, we want to build up at least 2 million, 2028, 4.5 million, and then we will see for the future. Now, for each of the goals in the strategic plan, we put what is the current situation, where we want to be in 24, where we want to be in 2028, and where we want to be if everything would fall into place. Okay, member associations. Currently, we have 166. We didn't kick anyone out today, so we're still 166. One less, yes, so 165. Sorry, forgot all about it. 165. By 2024, we put 150. Why? Because first of all, I think we already discussed there were some that are not active, and we want to really get the message across. We want active member associations. We don't want any postal boxes. We want people that are active, that have athletes, that have competitions. That's also why we put in place the multi-weight voting that pushes people to do things. We want activity. That doesn't mean that you all have to organize World Cups or World Championships. It can be an event with 20, 30 people, not a problem, but you have to do it. 2028, we want to be back where we are today. And in a fantastic visionary world, we could say it's 206 like the NOCs. But we also have to be realistic. There's no point in having all countries in the world have an archery federation if it is just to have a postal box. It has to have a real, clear potential to have a federation and not just a one-person operation. At the moment, we have 4 member associations with more than 25,000 members. We want 8 by 2024. Now, the question you might ask that, what is members? Well, members is whatever you define to it in your country. It could be people with a license, could be people that are a member of a club, could be whatever you define it to be, but we will ask you to report on it. By 2028, we want to be 15 with more than 25,000 and ideally 30. These are very ambitious goals, but we think it should be possible. We want 4 with more than 50,000 and 1 with more than 100,000. Now, we could cheat and say Germany is already complying with that because Germany has shooting and archery together. So we could already say we already have 1. But let's face it, we need to do it in a sensible way. At the moment, we have a lot of very small organizations, 87 under 250. We really need to have a maximum of 40% and 35% by 24 and 28. These are things we have to work on with you. But in certain cases, it's just a question of looking at how you're structured on a national level. You might have these archers, but you're not taking care of them yet. So we will see how we can help you with that. Oops. Okay, second thing for member associations. We think that based on the figures you gave us, there's around 460,000 registered archers in the member associations in total. By 2028, we want to be above 1 million. Many active archers are not members of your national federation. We want to have that changing. That by 2028, almost all people that shoot with a bow and arrow are member of your member association. We also know that at the moment, a lot of the membership structures are purely volunteer-based. This is something we want to work with you as well, so that that number goes down. Because let's face it, to really make progress, you will need, as voluntary president or secretary general, staff to do things for you that are available to give the services to the members that you need to give. At the moment, we have around 1,500 events in our calendar. But we have only 75 member associations, 45% with registered events in our calendar. Now again, with the change of the governance system and with the multiple votes, we should have that increase automatically. But still, by 2028, we want 90% of member associations to have registered events in the calendar. And then we have 51 countries that participated in Para-World Championships from the 5 continents, so it's only 30% of our member associations. We really need all of our member associations to work on para-archery because this is an essential part of our sport. Our president met some days ago with the Russian sports minister, and he was so impressed with our para-archery in Tokyo. He said, this is what sport is really about. So let's work on that. In terms of events, we have an established circuit of events, but they're not always the most cost-efficient ones. So we need to see how we can make them more cost-efficient. By 2028, we want to really have break-evens for our international events and the circuits, and have them profitable in the future. We also see that there is a limited number of countries hosting events. And in the first step, we already want to see more countries bidding for hosting events. And by 2028, 10% of countries that are member are bidding for events. The other thing is that it's not always clear what the event pathway is. We talked about the event pathway for judges, or the judges pathway. For events, it's a little bit the same. So we want to make clear, you go from national championship to a kind of continental event, world ranking event, World Cup, World Championship, Continental Championship, and so on. So clear event pathways with clear requirements at every level. Our calendar at the moment, until pre-pandemic, was very inconsistent. You never know when something would take place. Now, we already did a first step with blocking certain parts of every month for the World Cups or for World Archery events, which allows continental bodies to do the same for their part of the month, and we get a more consistent calendar. This is something we really want to do more and more, and in the future really have a 4-year ahead calendar at international level. It's not easy because unfortunately we don't control all the events archery is involved in, because you have many events like continental games, World University games, you have school sport games, you have military games. All those games are based on calendars that we don't set, so we have to find solutions for that. In terms of events, currently, let's face it, except for the Olympic Games, and okay, even that one this time was not possible, spectators, but we have a low spectator attendance. We want to really increase spectator attendance, but to do that, we also have to give something to the spectators. Also, the majority of the spectators is from the archery community. Now, we've seen in the World Championships in 2019 in 's-Hertogenbosch that a larger number of spectators are coming from outside of our sport, and this is really something we need to do. But if we want to do that, we also have to change the way we present the sport to that audience, or how we show it on television and so on. So there is consequences of that. Another thing is hospitality programs. We really need to see how we can get more hospitality programs in place. So far, our attitude towards events has been athletes first. That doesn't mean that changing it means we're going to neglect the athletes. The athletes still are the key position of the sport. Without athletes, we don't have competitions, we don't have the sport. But we need to see how we can balance the approach to other stakeholders. So a balanced attitude. Then we come to, I would say, the awareness and engagement. We have output, so articles on the website, TV output, we have an active content output, but it's not structured enough yet. We really need to plan more and have a more structured approach. By 2028, a more professionalized content output, and we constantly need to increase the reach and the engagement. The vision is that at a certain moment, archery is so common for everyone talks about it. Currently, our relationship with key broadcasters are not necessarily profit-making. Eurosport is a good example. We pay to Eurosport to be on Eurosport. By 2024, we want to be much more profitable and more profitable relationship with key broadcasters, with 1 already and with 3 by 2028. Currently, we have a lack of direct contact with broadcasters in 75% of the territories. 2024, we want to be at 25% and 50% in 2028. To be something people can be aware of, we need superstars. If I ask athletics, people will say Usain Bolt. Now we have a problem. Who is the new Usain Bolt? They don't have him. When you talk tennis, you have Djokovic, Federer, Nadal. But who is the superstar in archery? We have some, but very much nationally based. We have very few that are international. So we need to work on that and work with the athletes. We are very much Olympic-centered awareness. We need to develop events outside of the Olympic to maximize the awareness. We really need to have a World Championship seen as a much more significant event. In terms of activation, we're talking about sponsorship and so on. It's unclear how that pathway can happen. In the future, we need to have a clear activation for our partners. And also, it would be good that we have more a registry of venues that we can use, which will help with the events as such. Okay, that was it for our goals that we have currently defined. Now, we add for sure the one from Archery GB. This plan is not written in stone. Please give further feedback. But we also have to put it in the context of other things that are happening. And for instance, one of the things that is happening is Agenda 2020 plus 5. IOC wants to strengthen the uniqueness and universality of the Olympic Games. Of course, this is important. Universality is one of our key strengths on the Olympic program. We have a lot of NOCs participating. We have to protect that. Reinforce athletes' rights and responsibilities. Well, it goes both ways, rights and responsibilities. something we strongly feel about as well. Foster sustainable Olympic Games. I think we'll have to see what happens with the final bill of Tokyo, but it is very good that we already have a host for 24, 28, and 32. So we are already sure there will be 3 editions, because when the final bills will get in from Tokyo, some people will be surprised because of the extra year. For us, it's not that important because we have always our best athletes, but for people that have leagues, continuing to attract best athletes is for certain sports a big issue. We need to strengthen safe sport and the protection of clean athletes. Safe sport, no harassment, protection against all kinds of violence, and so on and so on. And of course, clean athletes, anti-doping, and also match fixing. Enhance and promote the road to the Olympic Games is a very important thing the IOC wants to do. They want to see how they can more promote the qualification to the Olympic Games. And this is something we will work with the IOC on for sure in terms of the qualification systems for the 24 and even more 2028 games. Sports calendar. It's what I talked about before in terms of our plan. There needs to be harmonization because we have too much things happening all the time. We have to grow the digital engagement, social media, and so on and so on. Encourage the development of virtual sports and further engage with video gaming communities. Azoif has done a study, and we will have a meeting with them early October to see how World Archery can get more and more involved with e-gaming, e-sports, virtual sports. The online Indoor World Series was the first step, and we have to see how we get further with that in the future. How to look at the role of sport in terms of UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think we are definitely an outdoor sport. We need to look at the environment. We have to strengthen the support to refugees. It's coming back to what I said before on Paris 2024 and a refugee program. And we need to reach out beyond the Olympic community. We don't have only the Olympics. We have to continue to lead by example in corporate citizenship. We are already doing quite a lot there, and we are doing all what we can in terms of good governance, which is the next one. And we need to see how we can generate more revenue, especially how to see how we can recuperate some of the losses we've had over the last few years. So, that's what I had to say in terms of our plan as it currently is. If you agree with the content, we will go for a vote in a moment. We will then work together with our staff to start putting that into more details. And then we will come with, I would say, a real written version with all the details to you in the coming year. And then we will present, I would say, already some things implemented by the next Congress. Okay, I see there is a hand up, so please.
Tom, I know we talk a lot about Olympic and Paralympic being together, but I know for us, every time we just talk Olympic, our para athletes feel a little left behind. And I wonder if we could potentially change, instead of saying just Olympic, to Olympic and Paralympic, so that it's more inclusive of really what our goals are.
Well, the last slide is the one from the IOC, and that is, of course, they will only talk about Olympic Games. Even if we saw a big, I would say, change in the communication of the IOC, since the IOC website was also used for the Paralympic Games. So I think on that one I agree. It's very clear that actually we have, for the first time, a specific goal on para sport in our goals. And I think this is a major step forward, and we really want to do like US Archery or some of the other member federations to really have para more and more involved, because we strongly believe that it is an essential part of our sport. And like I said before, we have other people noticing it as well, so it is really important. Yes?
Thanks for a really interesting presentation, Tom. One question that I've got is regarding the statement on the screen on the top right, which is around encouraging the development of virtual sports and further engaging with the video gaming community. How does that square with World Archery's position against shooting against the human form? Because almost all the video gaming with archers involves shooting other people.
Okay, so we have been, first of all, we had in our executive board quite thorough discussion on that based on a working group and so on. So we have set up kind of rules of what a game we can support will have to follow by. And one thing is very clear, it cannot be on any living creatures or that is a reality creature. There can be fictitious creatures as such, and things like blood should never be there, very clear. So the thing is, you have to find a balance between just an archery simulation and something that is, I would say, interesting for kids as well. But it's very clear, IOC is also very clear on that, violence has to be avoided, very clear. So we are working with a company at the moment to produce something which is, we've seen a first set of what it can look like. We'll see if it works that way or not. That is, I would say, the arcade or the gaming part of it. We also think that, like you see now with sports like cycling or rowing, where you have a virtual competition by doing the sport in some way, we're looking at what we can do that, and in a certain sense our online Indoor World Series was very close to that. So we're very much looking forward to the meeting we have with PricewaterhouseCoopers that has done a whole study for all of the sports, and they're going to come to us to see how we can develop further certain of the things we already put in place. Yes, Austria.
I have one question. 3D and field, what role does these two kinds of archery play in the strategy? I cannot see something about it.
Okay, it's very clear we want to govern all, it's about all disciplines. So 3D, indoor, field, run archery, all of them are included. I think it's not specifically mentioned. Now, we also have to be clear is that our main role will always be Olympic Games and Olympic disciplines, very clear. But of course, the plan will also accommodate, because we know that we reach, coming to the engage and the enjoy, that's very much linked to things like 3D archery or people going in a course to do archery. So it's very much linked to that as such and important. And we see the numbers we get in social media on field and 3D events are very important. So it's not. This is where the specific details in the document afterwards will need to address this, but it's not only outdoor target archery. Yes. Arnold.
Thank you for the great view we have, and I think this is a lot of work we can do together in the upcoming years, and especially the thing together is something I want to underline, because this is now the strategy of World Archery, and then we also need the continental and the national strategies, and I'm also looking forward to make an implementation strategy for also the continents and the nations to also give a good follow-up. Also the new member organizations we just have since today, and I think it's really a good opportunity to add this also to this vision, action plan we're going to make together. Thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you very much, and of course that is exactly what the empowerment in the mission is all about. Thank you. Okay, any further questions? I don't see so. So if we can then have, I would say, a vote by raise of hands if you agree with what has been proposed. Nothing is written in stone. We will come back to you as such. Of course, amendments can be made at any time. But this is really what we want to work on between now and 2028 as such. So all those in favor? Thank you. Anyone against? No? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Okay, then we will report on certain cooperations. So the first one, I would like to invite Hilda Gibson to talk about the cooperation with the Commonwealth Games Federation. So Hilda, if you can join me on the stage, so quickly give an update on where we are with the Commonwealth Games. Or the Commonwealth Games Federation, to be more precise.
Thank you, Tom. Can I take my mask off? Okay. Okay, hello. Of the 71 Commonwealth countries, 48 practice archery and are member associations of World Archery. The next Commonwealth Games will take place in Birmingham, England, in July 2022, and is the largest pan-continental multi-sports games after the Olympic and Paralympic Games. When archery and shooting were the only two proposed optional sports not included in the programme for Birmingham, India made representation to the Commonwealth Games Federation. In January 2019, it was announced that a proposal from India to host an archery and shooting Commonwealth Championships had been approved. The event was to be held in Chandigarh in January 2022, with individual, team, and mixed team competitions for both recurve and compound. Unfortunately, the challenges of the global pandemic meant that in July of this year, we received notification that the event will not go ahead. Although this is disappointing, we have to thank India for making the proposal and keeping archery in the conversations with the Commonwealth Games Federation. A number of Commonwealth Championships, continental Commonwealth Championships, have been held over recent years, and in August of this year, the 5th Commonwealth Archery Championships for Europe was held in England with 96 competitors from 5 countries. So Commonwealth activities and championships are taking place. And it's now 10 years since the Commonwealth Working Group was formed, and many of the original members have moved on. I'm going to work to reform this group with the clear terms of reference that's in line with those established for the permanent committees, and I've started the process of identifying members through nominations from the continental associations. The main purpose of the group will be to identify a host for Commonwealth Championships in 2022, as well as securing regular continental championships as a route to inclusion of archery in future Commonwealth Games. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hilda. And okay, so anyone from the Commonwealth, if you don't know Hilda yet, go and find her and talk with her. Okay, report on cooperation with other organizations. First of all, GSD, Global Sport Development Foundation. GSD gave us $190,000 that we were able to distribute around 35 athletes so that they were able to get through the COVID situation because they had a loss of income as such, because they didn't have events, they couldn't get contingency money, they didn't get money from their supporting organizations, and so we were able to spend $190,000 very well among 35 athletes as such, and we have had very good feedback from the athletes concerned. They also support our Continental Development Agency in Oceania and Africa, and I had a conference call with them yesterday morning, and they confirmed that they will renew the agreement with us till 2024, despite the fact that our counter, I would say, payment, you can say, is that we invite them to the Olympic Games. Now, the Olympic Games, we couldn't bring any guests, so unfortunately they could not come to Tokyo as such, but they have still agreed to renew up until 2024, and we will sign the contract very soon. World Academy of Sport, we work with them, of course, with our online training, but we also were very successful with athlete scholarship. That's a postgraduate program It's an online program with the University of London, and it was already awarded 2 times, January 2021 and September 2021. It's not announced yet, but we will also have some people participating in these programs. And the people that have followed the programs have been very positive about it. Some of it is based on payment of the athlete himself, but a part of it is through scholarships. We also have a cooperation with them on the Student Athlete Online Certificate. Up to 100 free access codes were given to member associations that requested it. It's a 4-hour program for youth athletes, strong participation in 2021, and the program for 2022 will be announced next week. So we hope that many of you that have participated will continue to participate in this program next year. Cooperation, FISU, well, I'm sure we will cooperate very well with them, with their new director of sport. So we look forward to working with FISU on the next World University Games, which are in Chengdu and then in Ekaterinburg. School sport, we will come back to that later on when we talk about the Gymnasiad tomorrow. CISM, we haven't heard a lot from them since our last Congress, I must say. I don't know if any of you has had any information on their next World Military Games, but we had as little as no information. We understand that they are also, of course, very much involved with the fight against the pandemic. The Archery Trade Association also had many challenges with the COVID, and they didn't have the last trade show, so we have very little information. We had a project with them that we were planning to put something in place in Europe in terms of development, but unfortunately that has been put on hold as such. And then the last one, IFAA, I had a phone call with the new president, which is the former Secretary General, because the former president, unfortunately for health reasons, had to retire. And we expect that we will have further discussions with them at the end of the year, and then of course we will keep you informed on the progress as such. Any questions on any of these cooperations? No? Okay, then I'll go back to my seat and then we can start with the fun part of the motions and the amendments. So, in terms of yes. So in terms of the motions and the amendments, we have, I would say, some quite different type of motions and amendments that we will discuss. There is some very much editorial things, and there is some very essential things. So we expect that the editorial ones will go very quickly. The other ones might take a little bit more time. Every time I will give, if necessary, the floor to the committee or member association presenting it. If there is amendments, the same for the one that put in the amendment. But for the first ones, I think it won't be necessary because they're very much editorial or very logical. So the motion 1 is that the introduction part of the rule book will be considered in future as a bylaw, and basically it will just put an additional line that the introduction is to be seen as a bylaw. Why? This is logical that we make this change, and it should have been a bylaw already many years ago, but we never looked at it as such. I don't think there is too much need to go into detail there. An introduction is an introduction, so any questions or remarks on that one? No? Then we can go and open the vote. Do you support defining that the introduction section is a bylaw? And the vote is open. We need two-thirds of the votes cast to pass this motion. Okay, we are very close to the end. Anyone has an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. We can close the vote then. And we have, I would say, a unanimous outcome of this one, 188 yes. Okay, second one. The second one is a lot of small edits in the Board of Justice and Ethics. Just one small introductory remark is that it is our intention to come to the next Congress with a complete rewrite of the Board of Justice and Ethics, because we have seen over the last few years that there is a need for a rewrite of certain parts of it, but unfortunately time wasn't there to do it this time. However, for safeguarding matters, so for matters related to harassment and so on, it's very important that we protect the victim. And therefore, the procedure that is currently in place would always have to show who the victim is, because the decision would have to be taken in a certain way with a publication and so on. So this is basically changing that we can protect the victims in certain case of harassment. That is what it is about, nothing else. Any questions on that? Doesn't seem to be the case. Then we can open the vote. Okay. Anyone has an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. We can close the vote. And we have 188 votes in favor for this one. The next one, we go on the screen, change the screen. Okay. For this one, I give the floor to Mark Miller, because it seems that between the intention and the actual text, there was some confusion. So, Mark, if you can clarify this.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. So our rules provide that a member association may have up to 3 delegates at a Congress. At the request of the Gender Equity Committee, CNR submitted a motion that provided if there are 2 or more, 2 or 3, delegates, then both genders must be represented. So, if a member association provides that they'll have 2 delegates at a Congress, one must be a man and one must be a woman. Since the time this was submitted, CNR has learned that what was intended is that the requirement of having a man and a woman should only occur if there are 3 delegates. So if there are only 2 delegates, then there would be no requirement to have 1 man or 1 woman. But if there are 3 delegates, then there would have to be at least 1 man or 1 woman. So accordingly, CNR is requesting Congress's approval to amend the language of the original motion to read as follows: provided that if there are 3 delegates, both genders must be represented. So procedurally, what we are proposing to do is the following. First, there will be a vote to determine whether Congress will permit the original motion to be amended in the manner I just described. If that doesn't pass, then the original motion, as was published, will remain. After that vote, then we will revert to our normal system, that we will go to the amendment proposed by Archery GB, vote on that amendment, and then vote on the whatever is the existing final motion. Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Mark. So, as Mark said, so we will first have a vote if you agree with the proposed change of wording to clarify the intention. That's what we are voting on first. This is a 50+1 vote. This is just giving us the authorization to change the text, as Mark said, that it would be, if you have 3, then you have to have both genders, and we'll then have a discussion afterwards on the wording of the text as such. So, is that clear to everyone? Okay, then we can open the vote for change, if you agree that we can change the wording. An issue here with Brazil. Okay, we are very close to the maximum. I think we can close the vote. Okay, so you give us permission to change the wording. So the wording is now, if you have 3 delegates, then both genders must be present. So that's how it's the text now on the screen. Now there is an amendment from Archery GB that says that the wording gender should be replaced by sexes, because this is a more correct terminology as such. Now, I'm not mother tongue English, so I fully trust Archery GB on this matter. The only thing is that if we do this, CNR will have to go through the rule book and check other instances where this could be also a matter that we need to change. Archery GB wants to add something on this? No? Okay, so now we will vote on the amendment to change 3 delegates. Both sexes must be represented. That's what we're going to, if the amendment passes, we will vote on the amended text. If the amendment fails, we go with the original text. So, the amendment, do you support the amendment to change gender by sex? Vote is open. Okay, we're getting nearly there. Any issue? No? We can close the vote. Okay, so we have now accepted the amendment. So now we will vote on the amended text, being, if there is 3 delegates, both sexes must be represented. Okay, so we can open the vote on the amended motion. The vote is open. Okay, I think we're getting close to the end. No one has an issue. We're going to close the vote. And the vote shows that the amended motion has been accepted. Then we go to the next one. So, this is about nationality changes. So, Kenya has put in a motion that says that if someone changes nationality, they have to notify World Archery of the change, and they may only be participating in international competition 1 year after that notification. That's the original motion. Then there is an amendment from World Archery Americas that says the 1 year is as soon as the change has taken place. There is still an obligation, but it's not because there has been a delay in the notification that you have to wait a year after the notification. It's just to not add additional administrative time. So that's the amendment. I don't know if World Archery America wants to say anything extra on that. No? Okay. So we will first, as with the previous, first vote on the amendment. If the amendment passes, we'll vote on the amended version. If the amendment fails, we go with the original text. So, do you support the amendment by World Archery Americas to pass? Yes or no? The vote is open. Okay, we're getting nearly to the end. Anyone has an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. We can close the vote. Okay, let's see the results. Okay, so the amendment has passed. Now we will vote on the amended version. So we're going to open a vote for motion 4 amended. So it's 1 year, but the year counts from the change of the nationality. The vote is open. Okay, anyone has a problem? If not, we will close the vote. The vote can be closed. And the amendment version has passed. Okay, we come then to the next motion. This is a motion presented by Sweden, and I'll give the floor to Sweden. We can get a microphone to Sweden.
President, delegates, barebow is maybe the biggest discipline we have in Sweden. Mainly, of course, because of we have a lot of forests. So we have field and 3D as important play, but all of our barebow archers also do target archery. I have done that since 30, 40 years back on national championship, without any problem. And it's maybe the easiest and the most non-expensive way to do archery if compared to the other disciplines. So I ask you to actually say okay to this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from anybody on this matter? Any of the committees? Anyone who wants to talk about this? No? Okay, so for this motion to pass, we need 2/3 majority. So the question is, do you support including barebow in target archery world championships? The vote is open. getting close to the end. Anyone has an issue? No? Then we can close the vote. So the motion has failed. 102 no, 84 yes. And the next motion is in case we have the necessity of a force majeure that the Congress cannot be held like we have today, that we have to do it virtually or in a hybrid format. In such cases, proxies cannot be exercised, and the proxies will have to be online. The decision to do so would be done by the Executive Board, but excluding members that are up for election at the Congress concerned. Such Congress must follow any specific requirements of Swiss Civil Code, and the procedures will be decided by the Executive Board upon proposal by the CNR Committee. Just to clarify why we have this motion, you can say, well, we have here a Congress, so we don't need it. The Swiss government has been very clear to all international federations registered in Switzerland, is that for this particular Congress, we could have done it this way because there was an exceptional rule in place by Swiss government for the first Congress since the pandemic. However, in future, if you don't have it in your rules, you might be stuck with a situation you cannot get out. And therefore, it is, from a Swiss legal point of view, necessary that we have this clause that gives the option that in case we do need it, and let's face it, no one wants this to happen, but in case we do need it, we have it in our rules and we can function as international federation as such. Any questions or remarks on this? No, then we can open the vote, and we will need 2/3 for this as well. Okay, we are very close to the maximum. Anyone has an issue? Yes? Okay. Okay, we can close the vote. Thank you very much. This motion has passed. Then the next motion is a motion 50 plus 1 in terms of majority. Do you agree that we will change the naming of our age category? So basically, instead of junior and cadet and masters, we go to U21, U18, 50 plus. This is mainly for making it clearer to the public at large what it's all about, because junior or cadet is a very vague term, whereas U21 or U18 is very clear of what it is. It doesn't change the actual delimitation of who is in that category, but it's just making the language clearer. Any comments or questions? No? Then we can open the vote for motion 7. Okay, I think we are close to the maximum. Can we close the vote? Not the screen, but the vote. Okay, and that motion has passed. Thank you very much. Then we go to motion 8, and this is really an editorial change because it's already in another part of the book, but it's a duplication in the rule book that is inconsistent. So to have it consistent with 13.1.4, we ask you to change this text. No questions on that, I suppose? Okay, then we can open the vote for motion 8. The vote is open. We are close to the, again, an issue in the back. Yep. Anyone else has an issue? It's okay. Good, then we can close the vote. And we have accepted that motion as well. Then the next motion, motion number 9. Motion 9 is really coming as a result of the Online World Series Indoor. And we had many people that wanted to shoot the indoor rounds outdoor. I think no one will say that it's easier to shoot outdoor when in indoor there is no such thing as changing of light or rain or wind or snow or whatever. So it is just to make it more possible to have outdoor shooting the indoor rounds, the 18-meter and 25-meter rounds. And it will help a lot with the development, especially of recreational archery. Any questions or comments on that? No? Then we can open the voting for motion number 9. And the vote is open. Okay, we should be close to the end. Yes? Any issue? No? Then we can close the vote. And you have accepted that motion as well. Okay, then we go to the next one, and before we do that, Target Archery Committee would like to say something. Before I give the floor to the Target Archery Committee Chairman, just one thing is that in the last Congress we voted on a complete new set of field archery and 3D rules. The intention is to do the same for target archery, because the target archery part of our rule book has been, well, basically developed since 1931 and has been has a lot of inconsistencies and different wording as such. So the idea is that by the next Congress, our newly elected CNR committee and target archery committee will have some work to do and will come with a rewritten version of the target archery rules. Meaning they will not change the substance, they will just make the language easier to understand. Right? That's the attempt they will do, okay? So in 2023 we will vote on that, and that should clarify a lot of things like what is for World Championship, what is for other tournaments, and so on. So that's just an information to give you, and I have a clear description of each round, not only in relation to the championship. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Now I give the floor to the chairman of the Target Archery Committee, Olivier Grillard, to talk about motion number 10.
I would like to ask to the Congress. The Target Archery Committee is requesting Congress to withdraw motion 10 on a 100 centimeter target face. We work on it, but I ask you to stop it for now.
Okay, so I repeat if people didn't understand. So Target Archery Committee wishes to withdraw the motion 10.
Yes.
A motion that is presented to Congress can only be withdrawn by Congress. So we will go for a vote asking you if you agree that we withdraw the motion 10 to change the size of the target face. So that's the motion, that's the vote that we will take if you agree to withdraw, and that's a 50+1 vote. The vote can be opened. Okay. Seems we have resolved the issue there. Then we can close the vote. Okay, so the vote is that we will withdraw the motion 10 and there will be no further discussion on this in this Congress. Then we go to motion 11. Motion 11 is talking about reducing the number of arrows from 72 to 60 for all outdoor 72 arrow rounds. And I think I will give back the floor to the Target Archery Committee.
We want our sport to be more clear for everybody. So in target archery, we would like the same rule for all the workshop, indoor, outdoor, 60 rows for each. It's more easy to explain, it's more easy for... And the second reason is we have a lot of problem of time when we organize World Cup and this sort of event. And with this, we have a benefit about the program of the competition. That's why we decided to propose this.
Okay, so that's the explanation by Target Committee. Is there any comment from any other committee? Is there any question or remark on it? Yes. French delegate.
No, it's not as a French delegate, but as para-archery committee member and chair. Just that the rule of para-archery, that we use the same rules that target archery. So of course, we will have the same consequence on the rhythm of shooting in para-archery. So just to be clear about this point.
I confirm that this would also apply to para-archery if the motion would pass, yes. Okay, any other question or remark? No, then we can go to the vote and we need a 2/3 majority for this to pass. So do you support changing to 60 arrow rounds instead of 72 arrow rounds for target archery? The vote is open. Okay, I think we are there. We can close the vote. So the motion has failed because we need a 2/3 majority and 97 is definitely not enough for it to pass. Okay? Then the next motion is the motion to change in field and 3D archery the pools, and it's basically to change between B and D. I will show it visually on the screen. So the next screen shows the current situation. It's a little bit small, but basically it's who the last matches are shooting against. And this is the change between B and D. So it's making it more consistent with what we do in target archery, you can say. Number 1 against 4 and 2 against 3. That's what it's about. Any questions or remarks? It was presented by Austria and Spain, but Austria was a few days earlier, so they have the priority, and that's why it's nominated by Austria and not by Spain. But both have submitted it. Any comments from or Austria or Spain? No? Okay, then we can open the voting for motion number 12. Okay, anyone has a problem? Okay, doesn't seem to be the case. Then we can close the vote. And this motion has passed. Okay, then the next motion is motion 13. It's in relation to outdoor scoring for compound, to use the X being scored as 11. We also have an amendment, this is from Target Archery Committee. We also have an amendment from Switzerland that this would also apply for recurve and barebow, so it would be for all 3 target disciplines. Does Switzerland want to say something about that, or it's clear enough? It's clear enough, okay. So we will first vote on the amendment. The amendment, if the text would be changed to include recurve and barebow as well, to score 11. Yes, our target committee wants to say something, sorry.
There has been a will from World Archery to have a clear differentiation between compound and recurve events. The 11 is proposed to add an additional tiebreaker for score on target competition level, also as a award for athlete precision. Therefore, the target committee does not support this amendment. Because
okay, thank you. Any feedback from Switzerland, which is their right?
I'm an archer. So summarized, the idea behind this amendment is that it's easier for new people, visitors, spectators, and so on, to understand the scoring. It's more difficult, we think, if different bow types have different scoring schemes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wants to comment or react to that? No? Then we can go to the vote on the amendment. So we can open the vote for the amendment. Vote is open. Okay, anyone has an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. Then we can close the vote. So it is clear that the amendment has failed. So now we go to the original motion. The motion saying that the X would be scored as 11 for compound only. So we will now open the vote. So scoring 11 for compound, the X becomes 11. The vote is open. Okay, we can close the vote. And the vote says that the motion has failed because it does not reach the 2/3 majority required for it to pass. Even if there is a majority for the yes, it does not get to the 2/3 of the votes. I think Target Archery Committee would like to make an announcement.
For the same reasons, the next motion is about 11 for indoor. We cannot have a a system for indoor and another for outdoor. So the motion 14, no reason.
Okay, so the proposal from Target Committee is to withdraw motion 14, like we had with the 100 centimeters. Congress would have to agree with this withdrawal. So we will first vote on the withdrawal of motion 14. If that fails, then we have to vote on the amendment, and then we will vote on the original motion. Okay? I know it's procedural, but that's how it is. So, do you support to withdraw the motion 14 about indoor scoring? The vote is open. Okay, does anybody have an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, we can close the vote then. You can close the vote. Okay, vote is closed. Okay, so you agreed to withdraw the motion 14. So we will not vote any further on that one. Then we go to motion 15, and that is from a field committee. Hannah, do you want to introduce that motion?
Good afternoon, everybody. The reason that this proposal has been put forward is to try and simplify the instinctive division, to make it more accessible for more archers, and primarily to ensure that archers can get equipment that meets the equipment rules for that division. Currently, we have got archers who have to glue their limbs or bolt their limbs down and basically destroy a decent bow to be able to compete. This amendment and this bylaw will therefore allow them to compete with bows that they can buy off the shelf.
And since it was a joint committee proposal, I give the floor also to the technical committee.
Thank you, Tom. We totally agree. I mean, we put this in together, and it's just there's no bow on the market that has one adjustable limb. All the archers have to modify their equipment, and like Hannah said, often destroying a bow or ruining it for ruining it. Sorry, my mouth's not working today. Ruining it for future use or adjustability. The other thing is the rules are very complicated and instinctive. We tried to simplify the rules and make it more inclusive for everyone. It's just a much easier task for the judges to be able to determine what equipment's legal by the rule change that we would like to make to traditional bow and traditional division.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions on that one? Okay, yes, Austria, first row here.
Just one clarification question. So when we read this, so face walking will be allowed? And will it be allowed that one archer does the Mediterranean and the under when having his fingers on the string?
Okay, so wait for the microphone to get to the back because I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
No, the bylaw that we've got submitted is purely in relation to equipment, not to any technique.
So basically the limitations that apply for the instinctive bow would be copied over to the traditional bow, correct? Yes. So this is a bylaw that could be in future be changed as well. It would be, if Austria would like that to happen, then it would have to be proposed by Austria in a later stage. Okay? Good. So we go with the motion as it is presented. The vote can be opened.
And then the presentation by the vice presidents and opening shortly.
Okay, we can be very close to the final number. Anyone has an issue? Doesn't seem to be the case. We can close the vote. Okay, and we have accepted this change as such. Just one thing, two remarks is that those changes that were accepted will come into effect on the 15th of January. And there is certain bylaws that will have to be approved by the executive board after we finish the Congress tomorrow. That will be there to implement certain of these changes as such. But the date of coming into effect is the 15th of January for all these changes. Yes, question from the Netherlands?
I think it's 2022.
Absolutely, because otherwise we are very visionary. You're absolutely right. Now we're going to go to proposals. Now, before we go to proposals, I would like to clearly clarify what is a proposal and what it is not. First of all, a proposal is a vote on the principle. The result will not change the rules or the laws as such. It's to see the opinion of the federation. Now, there is different type of proposals we will come back to in a moment. But it is just kind of a polling of what your opinion is rather than an actual vote, just to be 100% clear on this. So the first proposal is something that is within the authority of the executive board. So the executive board could have decided on this without coming to Congress, and they can still decide whichever way they wish, independent of the outcome of this vote. Okay? That is their prerogative. The proposal is that shooting time would be reduced to 30 seconds per arrow for target archery, except alternate shooting, and para archery would be the same, but plus 10 seconds per arrow. Now, before someone asks the questions, that means there could be a challenge for having a combined para archery and regular archery event. We know this to be the case, but it's already the case for other things like the size or the space on the shooting line and some other things that also have challenges if you combine events. Is there any questions or comments? Anything from target committee on that? No? It's a proposal, so okay, we can open the vote then on this proposal. Okay, we can close the vote. Okay, so you give an indication to our executive board in which direction they should go when they will meet at their next meeting. Then we will go to the next proposal. This is basically, we ask Congress to give a mandate to the Constitution and Rules Committee to correct certain areas of the rule book where there is an inconsistency between what is a law and a bylaw after this Congress. It is, I would say, in a certain ways editorial, but since a law is decided by Congress and a bylaw is decided by the Executive Board, we want to make sure that they have a full mandate to do so, and that afterwards someone cannot complain that they've gone outside of the mandate that has been given to them. So this is what it's about. Mark, any comment? No. Okay. So we can open the vote for proposal number 2. Okay, we can close the vote. Okay, so CNR, you'll have lots of work to do. Then we can go to the next one. Okay, we've had a proposal, and unfortunately the delegation of the Islamic Republic of Iran is not present because they were supposed to explain what it was about. But basically, the idea would be to introduce initially at continental level, but we assume, and okay, like I said, I assume because I'm not the one who proposing this proposal, that the idea would be afterwards to do it also at world level. We know there has been a club competition at European level, so it's something that already exists, and then, well, it disappeared and now it's back again. And so the idea would to do it in all 5 continents. That's the proposal that Iran submitted. Now, I cannot give you more details than what is in the text, because unfortunately, the Iranian delegation could not make it to the Congress. So can we open the vote for this proposal? Okay, anyone has an issue with the voting? No, then we can close the vote. And so you support the creation of this. So we will discuss with the Iranian Federation how they want to do this further. And then we will for sure come by the next Congress with a more concrete proposal of what this could be. And then it's up to the Congress, the next Congress, to decide if you want this or not, okay? Then the last proposal is also from the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it's not a new thing, but it's, again, like we said, it's a poll to see if you would support this, is to separate events for recurve and compound on international level. So you would have a separate World Championships for compound and recurve, and that's what the proposal is about. So any questions on that? It's not a new idea, it's already been on the table in the past. So we can open the voting for this proposal. Just on time. Okay, anyone has an issue? If not, we can close the vote. And so there is no support of splitting recurve and compound events. And so we will not come with any proposal in that direction as such. Okay, so this finishes the section on motions and proposals. Before I give the floor back to the President, I would like to thank very much all the committees, and especially Target and Coaches Committee, because there has been a lot of work done, and you've probably seen the report that they produced. And we don't want to give the impression that the work was done for nothing. It was essential work that was done, and I think it will give feedback back to the different committees to see what can be done by, I would say, the Congress of 2025, because these changes can, that were not accepted cannot be done in 2023. So it will give time to the committees to study again and see what can be done, perhaps in a different way, to come back. But I would like to thank all the members of the Target and the Coaches Committee for the extensive work that was done on preparing this motion, because that was not done in one day.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all our committees and their chairpersons. We finish one of our important part of the agenda. Good news, we finish it early. Bad news, we finish it early. Good news, there is a more time of coffee break.
But
for 40 minutes.
Okay. But it seems to be there is an announcement by Bruce Cull. Is this correct?
Bruce is coming.
Yes, Bruce is coming, and because he has an announcement to make.
Hello, thank you. Just for everyone's information, the dinner this evening, there'll be a cocktail hour first and then dinner, and I just want to tell you all, we will have some South Dakota native artists that will be having some of their wares, some of their nice stuff. If you want to take a look at it, it'll be during the dinner. That's it. You go to the breakouts after this, correct? So you won't be back in session, so I wanted to let you all know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. And also a communication before everyone disappears to the coffee break. For the executive board, if you can all go and see Mr. Dean Alberga, who would like to immortalize you on a picture. So Dean is ready with his camera as soon as you are ready during this coffee break. Thank you. Enjoy the coffee break.
Dear friends, please let's meet in the room at 3:40.